in, I think 5 or so. Here we go. Yep, live in 5. Let's do it. Welcome. Today, Novice to Ninja, I'm here with Arijana, Kartra expert extraordinaire. I know I don't see a few people hopping in, about 9 people. Feel free to introduce yourself in the chat as you're hopping in, where you're joining from, anything fun about you. Yeah, welcome to your Kartra Novice to Ninja. If you want to say hi to Arijana and a little bit about your business, we can start there and let people jump in a minute. Let's see. Or we can wait a little bit too. Wait for some more people to get in here.
I see a couple comments.
Oh, there we are. Hi, James. Oh, hi, Grant. James. Yeah, welcome, guys. Welcome, Michelle from North Carolina. I'm actually on the West Coast, and Arijana is in Serbia.
Yep. Yeah, a little further away.
That is a little further for sure. So it's night for her. It's pretty early for me. It's the cool thing about online space, though. You can connect from all across the world. Hi, Joe. Good to see you again. We got some people hopping in still. Hi, Jennifer. You're on my side of the world. I'm in San Diego, right below you. But yeah, welcome everybody. So today we are here with Arijana. I'm going to go ahead and kind of kick off a little bit about what we're going to be learning about. We are going to be learning how to segment your list and use that to really activate your customers. And so I'm going to let her kick it off, tell us a little bit about herself, and we'll get into her slide presentation. If you join late or you have to hop off early, there will be a replay set about 3 hours after this event ends. If you don't get that email or you're looking for it, can't find it, you can reach out to our team at community@genesisdigital.co. We'll add that email into the chat as well. And then if you do have any questions for Arijana, we're going to add her website as well as a way to connect with her too. So yeah, with that, I'll let you kind of jump in and I will share the slides after you introduce yourself and we'll get started.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Well, I'm excited to be here. I'm Arijana once again. I have been in the online business world since 2016 in various different capacities. Right now, I mainly help online business owners and consultants in like an online business manager or operations manager format, as well as doing lots of work in Kartra, building out funnels and helping automate all sorts of things as one can do in Kartra. So one of my really focuses is on simplifying things, and my business is called Scale and Simplify. And so that's kind of one of my intentions with this webinar as well, and talking about segmentation, which might feel like an undertaking, but it will actually help you keep things simpler when it comes to managing your contacts as well as creating offers for them.
Awesome. Well, I will go ahead and share the slides and we will jump into this presentation right now. There we go. And I already saw one question come in. We'll cover all questions at the end. Sorry, guys. Got to go back. Yep. We will cover them at the end and I will let you take on the slides. I'm going to hop off screen. And
awesome. Thank you. Okay, so just a little bit of a preview again of some specific things that we'll be going over today. One, I'm going to talk about why segment, or really what is the purpose behind it. We'll dig into where to collect data, specifically what you can do in Kartra in order to start collecting data related to your leads, and then how to segment. We'll talk about best practices, and I'll actually go through step-by-step instructions on how to set up a survey for this purpose. Okay, so segmentation and collecting data, I feel, is kind of like the gold mine that people tend to overlook. A lot of times we're really focused on growing our email list, and I've seen some accounts with really large email lists that aren't segmenting and really tapping into what they could tap into as from a segmentation standpoint. So really the power lies in what you're actually going to do with your leads, whether you have 1,000, 10,000, 100,000 leads in your account. Segmentation allows you to customize the experience for your audience because you're getting to know them on a deeper level beyond just their name and email address and the behaviors that they're going through. You can increase engagement, conversions, and customer satisfaction, again, because you're going to be able to tailor the content, the messaging, the offers directly to that lead and what it is that they need and are looking for. And you will most definitely discover surprising insights about your audience that can help you make informed business strategy decisions. So an example, one of my current clients, we implemented a survey. She serves parents, so she works with like IEPs, and her main target was parents, and that's what she was building her list around. We ended up implementing a survey that was just on a thank you page after her freebie opt-in, so people opted in for the free thing, and then instead of a normal thank you page, it's a survey. We also sent it out through email and all sorts of things. And through that, she actually found that she had a lot of advocates and attorneys or sort of peers, people who were doing similar things as her with parents who were looking for business guidance from her. And so she opened up a whole new revenue stream from understanding that by gathering data. So we'll dig into more examples and how you can do some of those things as well. Some of the things that I hear as to why people or reasons behind not having a segmentation survey, one is no one will fill it in. People are, for some reason, this is the pushback I get often of entrepreneurs not wanting to implement it because they think there's not going to be a high completion rate and then the data is not really going to mean anything. I've seen 60% and higher. One we implemented recently, it's so far staying at 80% completion. So that one is a survey that the client has it's kind of like a personality assessment. And once the person goes through that assessment, there's a follow-up survey that asks them a little bit more about who they are, if they work for a company, if they're an entrepreneur, and so on. And we have an 80% completion on that. So it's so much valuable data that you're leaving untapped if you're not using a survey in that way. Another common thing I hear is I don't want to add extra barriers, either to signups or just in the flow of a funnel. And again, given the completion rates that I've seen, I don't really think that it's a barrier. And we always want to look at, excuse me, at quality rather than quantity. So sometimes, people don't want to put extra fields on their opt-in form. And obviously you're not going to have like 6, 7 fields on your opt-in form, but even one extra one can get you some really valuable information. And if somebody doesn't want to fill out a third field, they may not be, in my opinion, the right lead anyway. The other thing that comes up is people do some data collection, but then they don't really utilize it. So we're going to talk about how to actually make use of it. So before I move on and talk about segmentation surveys, comment in the chat and just let me know, have any of you tried to implement them? Are you using them so far? Just so I kind of know if there's people in here who have tried, have questions about it, or you've just never attempted to create a segmentation survey. Or are you like, I don't even know what you mean by segmentation survey? No. Okay. Okay, cool. Well, I guess you're in the right place. All right, so before we jump into that, I just want to take a second to talk about tags and lists. This is like the #1 question I get from people of what is the difference between a list and a tag and how to use them. So I just want to cover that briefly because it does link directly to surveys, because when you're collecting data, you need to translate that into tags so that you can utilize it in segmenting. Okay, so lists are like your bigger bucket, broader categories. So if you think of a grocery store, the list is kind of like the aisle. So let's say you're in the dairy aisle, that is your list. Your tags or your specific items are like your milk, your different types of cheeses. Okay, so the key lists that I always start with are all subscribers, because I just like to have a catch-all. You don't have to have that one. You can have just newsletter subscribers, but you never want to leave any contact in there just hanging out and not attached to some sort of list. Newsletter subscribers is the people you regularly email as part of your newsletter, customers and active customers. So those are just some examples. So when you're creating lists, you can have one that's, for example, freebie subscribers, but you don't need a list for every separate freebie. I see a lot of people do that. So consider, like, when you're deciding whether something should be a list or a tag, lists are the broader categories, and you're considering, what groups of people do you frequently email. That's going to make it easier for you to just refer to a list. Or for them to unsubscribe from just a particular type of email. So remember, when somebody clicks unsubscribe, they're taken to a page that shows them all of the lists that they're subscribed to. And there they can select what type of communication they want to receive from you. And so you can use that from a segmentation standpoint as well. Okay, tags are more specific and they tend to be based on like a lead's actions or preferences. So like I said, if we're in our grocery store, the tags are like the mozzarella cheese versus milk. And so your tags, you want to be specific, and I like to use different naming conventions. So these are just some examples, like purchased, and then your course name and the date of your launch. I know I saw a different webinar that talks about organizing your Kartra account, and it's got lots of examples of like how to structure your tags and all of that. So you can dig into that if you need more, but this is kind of the high level example of tags. So for segmenting, you're going to have tags attached to all of the information that a lead gives you. You're going to translate it into a tag. So when I say segmentation surveys, this is what I'm talking about. Your first step is collecting data through surveys. Then you're going to tag them for segmentation. And then step 3 is customizing their experience based on the things that they told you throughout that survey. So I'm talking about surveys specifically, but there are other ways that you can collect data. So one is opt-in forms. So you've got your opt-in forms on like a freebie giveaway or an event registration page. You can add in, you've probably seen this option as well, like an extra field that asks for somebody's social media handle. That's a good one to have on there, just so that you can connect with them in one other way. Or maybe there's some other data point that's really important to you to know right off the bat, and to make it mandatory before they even reach a survey. So if your audience is business owners, it might be like, how long have they been in business, or something similar to that. And so I've seen that work well too, in just adding one more field to your opt-in and starting to collect more data that way. You can also do it through tracking links. So you've probably received emails from people where they want you to click on, it's like click on one of the following links to let me know your preferences. And then when you click, the system is going to tag you on the back end to specify that those preferences. tracking links don't allow you to have as much control and depth as a survey would. And so that's also why I'm talking about surveys more. Surveys can go on, you can use them in memberships. So I've seen people use them within memberships. You can gather feedback or just ask people for their preferences, or just gather information on where they're at in their business, what their challenges are with whatever it is that you specialize in, so you can serve them better within that course or program. And thank you pages is the one that I would recommend starting with. And so this is, like I said, they're going through an opt-in, or they purchase something, and on that thank you page, instead of a different offer or directing them somewhere else, you're going to present a survey that asks them for more information about them. As far as the contents of that survey, one thing you can ask about is learning styles or their content preferences. So you can ask them how they want to consume content, for example. It could also be something like asking them what social media platform are they using the most. You might discover you're not leaning into the one that really aligns with where your audience is. So anything related to how they consume content and their learning style. And again, you always want to think back to, like, what is the information that is valuable for you and your business? What would it be great to know sort of at larger scale about your leads? The other thing that's really great for is idea generators for content. So you can ask people what topics they're interested in, what their challenges are. All of that is going to direct you into giving them content, whether in email or on social or workshops or whatever it might be, that is actually answering their questions. It can be about identifying their needs. So this might look like, again, if your audience is business owners, asking them how many years they've been in business, because their needs will be different, asking about what their main challenge is, and things like that. And then you can also do a periodic check-in, so sending out surveys, not to new leads, but to existing leads on some sort of regular basis. And really in those, you're just going to loop back to one of the first 3 on the list and ask them about those to see if there's any changes. Obviously, like our world changes at a very high speed, especially now. And so you want to be checking in with your audience and making sure that you have current data. Okay, so before we jump into creating a survey, a few more best practices when it comes to actually creating your survey questions. So you want them to be short and focused, and prioritize things that are going to offer you actionable insights. So again, what would it be valuable for your business to know and understand about your leads and customers in order to make decisions on what kind of content or offers or support would be helpful for them. It's also best to mostly use multiple choice questions, because that's going to help you it's a very specific data point, and you can attach that to a tag based on their answer. But you can include some open-ended questions where you can dig deeper and kind of like read through people's answers to find information. And then applying tagging to all questions, and I'll show you how to do that. So just before we jump into just the technical piece of setting up surveys, do you have any questions? You can drop them in the comments, and I'm just going to take a peek now for a second in the Q&A. So one question is, can segmentation help with email deliverability? I'm not an expert in deliverability, so I'm just going to put that disclaimer there. But I would imagine yes, because if you're targeting content very specifically to that person and they're more likely to open it, that is also going to help you with your deliverability. Like if you're pinpointing smaller segments of your list with specific messages, you're going to start to see higher open rates and engagement. Okay, so setting up surveys within Kartra. And you'll have these slides so you can follow along with these steps afterwards as well when you're setting up your own. So surveys is located under contacts. And then you're gonna, once you open that up, you're gonna click the add survey button at the top. And somebody just asked, can you have multiple choice and other questions? Yes. So I'll show you in a second the different types of questions that can be included in a survey, and then what to do with the answers. Okay, so then you're going to write a survey name, and there are 3 options. So you're going to select a traditional survey for what we're talking about today. There are also 2 other ones that you can play around with. Those are more quizzes. For segmenting, you want to select traditional survey. Okay, so once that opens up, you're going to see all the little settings tabs. The first one is questions. And so we want to go directly into that, click edit, and start adding in our questions. Okay, so the first thing that you can do is enable an intro cover if you'd like, and that is just, sorry, something happening on my screen. And that is just if you want to have like a screen before it jumps into your first question. And then after that, you'll see the question section there with a little add question box where you're going to click there and start adding in your questions. So this is what's showing on the screen. These are the types of questions you have options. So it's kind of the top 4 boxes, I should have highlighted them. So the top 4 boxes is like step 1 of what you're selecting. So you're going to tell it if you want text only, or there's some options with images. I typically do text only. Once text only is selected, you have your options there. So here you can do multiple choice, text boxes, rating scale, and so on. For segmentation, like I said, you want to try to stick to multiple choice because those are going to give you like really specific data points. You can do short and long answer as well, and I'll show you where you're going to be pulling responses, but you are just going to have to kind of read those or download them into ChatGPT. I'll talk about that at the end to kind of analyze and extract the information. But you can't sort of, there's no tag that you can really apply to somebody's answer that's like a free text. Okay, so then when you select the multiple choice, you're going to click it like the way that we edit anything in Kartra and edit the text there. There's 2 text boxes. I tend to just put the question in that top one that's bolded and then delete the next one. But you're going to put your question and any other information you want to put there. And then when you click on the, it starts with 4, the 4 multiple choice answers, this little window will open up. So you can see here I have it highlighted in red. And you're going to go through, click the pencils, and put in the questions that you want. You can obviously add more than 4 as well. So right underneath that, right underneath where I talk with my hands a lot, so excuse that. Right underneath that box, you can see it says add question to leads profile. So we want to enable that like this. And then you're going to put an identifier and the question. The identifier, this is kind of like, I like to structure them the way that I structure tags, because oftentimes, like throughout Kartra, as you're using these data points, you're going to have to select them from a list, and it really helps to have differentiating pieces to that field identifier. So for example, you might start it with like the name of your survey. If you have more than one, you might put like opt-in survey dash, and then whatever the question is, just whatever is going to allow you to, from a list where you can just see the identifier, easily spot it and know that that's the one that you want to select. Okay, and then you're going to put your question there. Okay, so then once we're done with the question section, underneath that is identification. I would enable that. You don't have to, but if you enable it, it's going to ask them for their email address. And obviously we want that to connect the information to them. And so you'll be able to change the text there. Mine says something about saving your preferences to tailor our support to your unique situation. So just explaining to people why it's of benefit for them to enter their email, do the survey, and have that information stored so that they can have a better experience and more tailored communications or content. After that, we just have the success page. So there's two options. You can do like a default Kartra one. If you click on that, it does give you some different options of like the layout and what you want on there. You can also redirect it to another page, which could be outside of Kartra, or you can create another specific thank you page for this purpose and bring people there once they're done. Okay, so now we're back in like the main survey screen. We're over from the questions tab over to the settings. Here you can put email, like a confirmation email if you would like. I typically don't. For segmentation survey, I don't think that it requires a confirmation email just for the survey. You are, though, going to send them emails separate from that afterwards through sequences or broadcasts. Okay, and then if we move over one more tab, we have automations. So here you want to create a tag, something like segmentation survey completed. So this is your first tag. This doesn't have anything to do with their answers yet. We'll do that in a second. But this tag is just going to tag people who actually complete the survey so that you can use that as well. If you're wanting to, for example, follow up with people who have not completed the survey, then you can use that tag for segmenting. The automations for tagging people based on their answers, unfortunately, cannot be done in here. So we're going to do that outside of the survey section in a second. And then your responses are in here as well. So you can do individual or group responses. Once you start to see things coming in, then you can see the summary and look for any trends in there. Okay, and so we're out of the survey section now, and we're going to go under marketing to automations. And this is where you're going to create your tags that are linked to every person's answer, if it's a multiple choice. So actually, let me go back for a second. So the first thing you're going to do, you're going to start a new automation, and you're going to select contact completes survey, and then it's going to ask you for the survey name, and you're going to select that survey, the one that you just created. Okay, and then you're going to add a second condition to that if, and it's going to be an and, contacts custom field, and then it's going to ask you to select the custom field. So now you're selecting that custom field that we just talked about, where I explained how the identifier needs to be something that you can recognize. Okay, so here in my example, I have custom field year in business is, and then I've got 4 different answers that I had created in that survey, 0 to 1, 1 to 3, and so on, years. So then you're going to select it. And you're going to do this for every single answer. Okay, and then under then, you're going to click assign a tag, and you're going to assign a tag that is linked to that. So what you're going to be doing is for every question, or rather for all of the answers to all of your questions, you're going to have a unique tag for all of them. So in this instance, for mine, I'm going to have 4 one is going to say survey years in biz 1 to 3. Then we're going to have survey years in biz 3 to 5, and so on. So that each unique answer is tied to a unique tag. And the reason for the tag too is you can oftentimes segment just by the person's custom field, right? So when you're doing different things in Kartra, you can use this as a condition to say if their custom field is such and such, then either trigger an automation, an email, and so forth. But I like to also apply tags to it because it just makes it, sometimes you can't use the custom fields. Plus with tags, for me, it just feels cleaner and makes it easier to see reports of who has which tag and so on. Okay, and so then now we have, this is the recap of what's actually happening with everything that we went through. So step 1 is your lead is filling in an opt-in form, or they make a purchase, and then, or you're sending them an email with a link. And then they're taken to a thank you page that has a survey on it. From there, they're completing the survey, and as they're completing the survey, the automations that we just created are tagging them based on their answers. Okay, and so once you have their answers, what do you do with that information? So one, you can use it for segmenting email campaigns and sequences. So you can send a personalized newsletter emails based on their responses. So you can have multiple different email groups. You can have different types of emails. For campaigns, you can have tailored campaigns based on whether they answered one way or another on any given question. And then you can also have unique welcome sequences and onboarding sequences. So for example, again, with the case where your customers are, or your leads are business owners, and you want to segment them based on like whether they're a beginner or based on a certain revenue level, for example, you can do that right off the bat. So if you're working with beginners as well as people who are really advanced and far along in their business, your messaging for those two is going to be really different. And if you know right off the bat that they're one group versus the other, you can start right out the gates, making sure that you're communicating with them in a way that's actually helpful for them in their current situation. And then the other thing that you're going to do with this information is for research and analytics. So you can pull the data from Kartra and look at it for trends, and that's going to help inform your strategy. So one of the things you can do too is just do this in ChatGPT, especially if you're doing some long form questions and answers. So if you have a whole bunch of long form answers, once you gather a bunch of those, there's so much gold in there. And if you export that into ChatGPT, you can ask it to look for any trends, any keywords, any trends in like challenges or desires of your leads and customers. You can ask it for keywords of how they define or describe their problems, and then you can utilize that within your content and your messaging. But have a system in place where you're doing this on a regular basis, because otherwise you're just collecting information and not using it to actually drive decisions. So your action plan is to create a survey that's going to start collecting data. You're going to outline your tags and apply it through creating automations, and then you're going to analyze that information that's coming in and start building out some custom email sequences. Any questions? Let me check the questions box here. Okay, if they're on a thank you, this is a good question. If they're on a thank you page, they have likely already given their email address. So what would be the purpose asking for it again? So let me answer that first question. The information isn't going to be pushed through in this instance. And so unless I'm wrong. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but from Kartra. But the email won't be pushed through and linked to that survey. And so we need to ask them for their email address again.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, the one thing I will say is they can be pulled over if they agree to, like, their contact will automatically pull over if they agree to cookies. But it's not guaranteed every time. So it is the safest bet to just select it if you want to ensure that, it's not a survey that's not assigned to someone every time.
Yeah, okay. Thank you for that confirmation. Okay, the next question is, how do we tailor content to them? So when I say that, what I mean is, let's use the example of a revenue in business. So if your audience is business owners, and you're asking them somewhere in the survey to give you their revenue range of where they're at in their business now, that's going to help you understand what stage they're at and therefore what stage they want to get to. And so you're tailoring your content because you're seeing this is a beginner. You're not going to start sending them emails of like how to reach $100,000 months in the next 30 days if they're at zero, right? And so hopefully that gives you an idea of what I mean by tailoring content. You can also, if you're asking about their main struggle for, this is for any industry, whatever your customers or leads' main struggle is, if you see that there's more of one or the other, you can start talking more about certain topics. Or if you're running a campaign, let's say you're promoting a course, you have multiple courses and they hit sort of different pain points, you can make sure that you're sending emails just to those people who really have that current need to deal with whatever challenge that course is going to help them address. Okay, does it create a tag on them so I can send communications, or just that they answered a survey in a certain way? So the tags, and this might have been sent before I went over the tags pieces. But yeah, the tag, you're going to tell the system what tag you want, and then that's how you're sort of connecting to that lead and selecting them for communications. Okay, if you tag someone according to how they answer, but that answer can change, how do we track changes if someone answers and like now they've been in business for 3 years versus 1 year? So this is where doing surveys more than once is important. And then you can send those out through email campaigns and have people fill those out again, and then the most up-to-date answers. Yeah, so hopefully that answers it. Let me see if I've missed any here.
Yeah, I was also going to say maybe another little side workaround to your question, Terry, would be an expiring tag. So like if a tag you set for 2 years expires, and apply the next year tag too at that point. So, there's automations with expiration and tags that you might be able to look into without also having to ask. But I think ultimately it is, you want to continue to connect with those people and understand where they're at too. So I guess it just depends on that piece for your business.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, especially on things that most things that you're going to be asking about are going to change over time. Like there's very few things that are not flexible. So I think that's a great idea of having them expire and then, like I said, re-surveying every now and again.
And I have a quick question for you. I didn't see any others in the chat at the moment, but maybe this will break some out. Because I know we talked about surveys today, and I saw that Ray-Sean said, do you need a higher plan? Which is true. For surveys and quizzes, you do need Kartra growth. But one option to still creating custom fields and having segmentation would be creating that opt-in form as well. Would you explain a little bit more about that process, just so that people understand they can still do it at the starter level, just maybe more micro?
Sure. So yeah, on the opt-in form, when you're creating your opt-in forms, by default, it's just going to, the fields on there are the name and email address. And so when you're doing that, you can click to add a field. There's obviously there's standard ones that are already in there, like company name, if that is relevant for you, or you can create a custom field at that point. So the same way that we created the questions in the survey, you can create a custom field that is like, how many years have you been in business? And then those answers, and you can have it as optional or required right on that opt-in form so that you're gathering that right up front. The other thing you can do too is with the tracking links. So like I said earlier, so the way that this would work is you basically can create a thank you page. You start with creating a thank you page that's like, thanks for your answer, good to know. And then in your emails, you're going to have text that asks them a question and answers. So if we're continuing with our years in business example, in the body of your email, you're going to write 1 to 3 years, 3 to 5, and so on. And then you'll create a tracking link, and the tracking link allows you to create an automation as well. So when somebody clicks a specific link, which is going to be to your thank you page, for years 1 to 3, if they click that link, the tracking link can be set up to automatically apply a specific tag. It's not as controlled as a survey, but it is one way of doing it. So the difference is that in a survey, one, you can ask, you can go more in depth. And also people in emails like to click around. So you might end up triggering more than one tag. But you can definitely still collect a ton of information through that as well. I think there was another question. Do you have an example to see how this looks? Unfortunately, I don't have it in the slides, but it will, which now in hindsight seems like an obvious thing to add in, but it'll look very similar to when we were creating them. I don't have a link handy to one of mine to be able to show you, but it kind of looks like this. So, you're going to actually embed this on a page. So everything above and below it, you can totally customize on a page in Kartra and then embed this form. And it's just going to be questions like this, and they're going to click next, and it'll progress to the next one.
Yeah, and I was going to say, I think the highlights at the end of the slide deck. Let me see if I can get to that one. I think this is a perfect opportunity to highlight, your strategy session. And maybe Jennifer, you can join Arijana for one, and maybe she can kind of walk you through that setup one-to-one. The link is at the end of the slide deck, and then we're also going to be sending it to you via chat message as well. You'll have a link to this, but I would save this link, get your camera out, get a 45-minute session with her. And then if you have any questions about setting it up, any of our support team at Kartra can also help there too. So I feel like definitely understanding your customer base is one of the most important things you can do. Even if you don't have a lot of people yet in your database, those few people provide the most valuable insight, so you know what they're excited about, so you can continue to build on it too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will just say with the sessions, this isn't something that you'll find on my website or anywhere. I literally made it specifically for this group. And you'll see when you go through to book that it's just for the next couple of weeks. But it's pitch free. This is not like a sales call or a consultation call. You can just book a call with me and then ask any questions. We can do a training, or I can have a peek at your account, and then we can see how you can implement surveys or anything else in Kartra.
I love it. Honestly, it's about building confidence using it. And once you learn how, you can take take it very far. So,
Absolutely.
Jennifer. Gonna open up the floor for any other questions. I was trying to think if I had any others. I did want to I think the email list segmenting that you highlighted, I definitely agree with, if you can send people emails that they're going to click into, that potentially increases your deliverability rates. So, as much segmentation as you can do really is getting the information in front of people that want it the most. So I think that you hit the nail on the head with everything you shared today. And
I think that the thing with surveys is the thing that I love to see is that every single time I've implemented them, the results tend to surprise us in some way, shape, or form. Not maybe all the way across the board, but there's at least one question where we have these assumptions about our audience and our leads, and we're deflecting our own challenges or whatever it might be. And that's not necessarily the reality. So to have that in black and white really helps you make decisions and make them with confidence, knowing that you're not just drawing at strings and guessing what it is that they need, but you have more concrete guidance.
Yeah, very, very true. Wanted to highlight again too, we will be sending a replay of this whole presentation, so you can go step by step through all the steps that Arijana beautifully laid out for you guys. So, and then again, if you have questions, we can help you walk you through any of those as you're building it in your own accounts too. And if you want to share your successes with our team, it's always good to have that feedback for ourselves as well. A way of collecting data that way too. So I'm going to go ahead and enter the email in the chat. If we don't have any other questions, I'm going to wait about 3 more minutes and we'll probably just end. And appreciate you guys joining today. If you do need anything, you can reach out to community@genesisdigital.co. If you don't see the replay, if you don't know what you're doing, feel free to reach out. We're here to help. So, anything else, Arijana, from you today, or
not for me, unless anybody has some questions. Good.
Perfect. Well, with that, we will sign off. Thank you, everybody who came today, and happy Wednesday. Or if it's close to Thursday, I wish you a wonderful rest of your week. And thank you again for partnering with me today, Arijana. And we will see you soon.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.